Hi, everyone. I wanted to share a strengthening practice with the use of props. So for this class, we'll be using 2 blocks and a medium weight resistance band. Let's begin standing. So find yourself in your space where you have enough room around you to stretch out. I have my mat here, 2 blocks at the front of the mat, and I have a resistance band within reach. Let's begin standing, rooting through the feet. Can be rocking forward and back. Hands can be alongside or on your hips. And shift the weight into one leg and then the other, alternating heel lifts. Taking a moment to shift the weight all the way onto one side, lifting up the heel and then rolling over onto the top of the foot. Taking your time there. And then shifting the weight to the opposite side, unpeeling the heel, coming up onto the toes and then rolling over onto the top of the foot. The idea is to rock back and forth and ease yourself into the awareness of all 4 corners of your feet, meaning the great toe, small toe, inner heel, and outer heel. And once you feel grounded there, you can soften through the ankles and the knees, and then begin to sway the arms from side to side by flexing each knee. So one knee bends, one leg straightens, and then the arms just shift from side to side. Taking this as a whole body movement to start. Bringing yourself back to the center, you can open up the palms and then reach the arms out to the side and then up towards the ceiling or wherever you are in your space, and then slowly release the arms down. We'll take that 2 more times and then add in the folding of the torso down. For this last one, you may want to reach the arms up and take your gaze up. And then dive the arms down, bending at the hips, and then allowing the fingertips to brush the mat or the floor, and then shifting from side to side. Allowing the head to be released, perhaps even shaking the head from side to side and up and down as if you are saying yes or no. The nod of your head. But continuing this swing and shifting of the weight. And we'll come to the middle, press into all 4 corners of the feet and then roll back up. Steady legs, open palms, reaching the arms up. We'll do this 2 more times as we dive down. Take your time with your head below your heart. Moving or walking of the hands from side to side. Coming back through center, pressing the feet down and unraveling. Opening the palms, reaching up. This time you can set yourself up in your space so you can dive down and find blocks. Perhaps resting your hands on blocks. And I'll be gripping the medium edge of the block while I step my feet back and finding a high plank pose. So holding myself here, strengthening through the upper part of the body, I'll shift the weight into the left side and step forward with the right foot. So just moving in and out of this lunge, and I'll use this as a preparatory warm-up, pressing into with the right foot, and then stepping back with the right foot into a high plank, stepping forward with the left foot, rocking forward and back, stepping back with the left foot, high plank, and then just working at a pace that feels right. So we're still in the beginning part of this practice, but it is a strengthening practice. So we're getting right into the hips, right into the muscles of the back and the front of the torso. Perhaps on this next time that we're holding a high plank, You push the hands into the blocks, into the mat, and hinge the hips up and walk the feet into downward dog. And taking a moment here to walk gently in place, moving into the hips. And the knees. And then we'll walk the feet back to the hands, allowing the hands to just press into the edges of the block or allowing them to hover, and then slowly unraveling back to standing. Taking the time to roll the shoulders back, maybe one at a time, alternating that movement and then perhaps both together in some shoulder rolls. Opening up the palms, reaching the arms up, we'll take opposite wrists. So my right hand will take the left wrist and just gently pull up and over for a side stretch. I'll take it to the opposite side. So the left hand will find the right wrist, gentle lift up and out, and taking it to the other side. Back through center, reach with the arms and adding in a twist here. Right arm will reach forward and I'm bending the right knee, and then the left hand can reach out to the side, the gaze can follow, or the left hand can find its way behind the left shoulder and the gaze can follow there. So taking that forward again, left arm this time will reach forward, left knee bends, right arm out to the side with the gaze, or right arm back behind you with your gaze. So alternating twists. Just moving into this whole body movement at a pace that feels right for you. Next time the arms are back through center, you can take a moment to lift your gaze and then allow the arms to extend out to the side, diving down the torso along with the hands, just shaking the head side to side and then up and down. Walking the hands to the other side of one foot and then in front and then the other side of the opposite foot. And just a gentle sort of half circle walking in this forward fold. I'm going to reposition myself on my mat, so I'm finding my hands to my blocks again. I'm still in this forward fold, and then I'm slowly walking my feet back, taking a high plank pose with the support of the blocks, and then shifting by pressing my hands into the blocks, into the mat, pushing the floor away, and hinging back into downward dog. So I'll take that a few times, just to warm up my hips, my shoulders. And then the next time I'm in a high plank pose, I'll drop the knees and find table pose. I find the blocks very helpful and supportive in the practice. And also they can bring in some challenge. So gripping the edges of the blocks, I have my block on a medium side, so it's a more narrow edge to grip from. And just by doing that, I'm engaging the muscles of my upper body and I feel more connected to the movement. So hands and knees pose through the hinging or the rock backs, the upper and lower body. And bring in some circles through the hips. Changing the direction. And I may even want to come forward in an extension of the spine and find a supported cobra. And then when I shift out, torso comes forward, elbows slightly bent, I push myself away and I can hinge back into child pose. So that's one option. You can continue with the hip circles, moving in and out of here, or perhaps you move in and out of this extension of cobra. And this rounded flexion of the spine in child pose. So just finding any variation of these stretches that feel accessible to your body. And just throwing out a reminder to be gentle in your practice, noticing and observing your body as you move, as well as your breath and the state of your mind. The next time we meet with the arms lengthened in a position of softening where we can re-engage with the breath, maybe we add the blocks under the forearms to release through the wrists and then hang the head here. Taking gentle pauses through transitions of movement to recalibrate the breath that will carry us through the practice. Breathing through the back of the heart space as well as the sides, opening up the space between the rib cage. And taking a moment to press those hips back up, shift the weight from side to side. I'm going to step the blocks out for a moment, find my resistance band, slide it closer, and then take this seated hero position where I'm just sitting back on my heels. So a couple options where you can have the toes curled under and sit back, or if you would like to rest through the tops of the feet, you can fold a blanket underneath for extra support and then just sit back. So take your choice there, and we'll add some upper body movements and then the band. From here, I like to reach the right hand back, and the hand can be in tented finger position, or you can use a block to support in the back, or you can reach for the right heel. So whatever you choose, I prefer the tented finger approach. I feel a little bit steadier and spacious with that. And then the left arm will sweep across the front of the body. So we'll have these reaching overhead options and then changing from side to side. So now my left hand will be the anchor and I'm sweeping the right arm in front. So side bends and twists kind of added into one movement, as well as some fluidity and flow. And then the other option would be to add in a lift of the torso and pelvis as each arm lifts. Be mindful of your head and neck. Feel supported in your movement. And feel free to linger in the lift or in the sweeps. And again, I'll just show both options. From here, we'll walk the hands forward, tap out through the tops of the feet. Walk the knees back in and find the resistance band. So I'm holding the resistance band out in front of me and I'm just pulling the band apart so I have engaged my upper body muscles. And from here, I'm lifting the arms up any amount and lowering. Lifting and lowering. The resistance band is a nice way to add in strengthening in a traditional yoga practice without too much thinking. So I'm adding in some simpler movements of just lifting and lowering the arms. Perhaps the next time the arms are lifted, you can lower the arms along one thigh, one side of the body, taking it back up. And then to the opposite side. So a slight twist there. You can also deepen the twist by allowing the band to come down closer towards the hip area. all the while still pulling that band apart. Taking a moment, lifting the arms up any amount, and then slowly lowering. Taking a round of breath here with the arms lowered. And the next time we lift up the arms, pull the band apart, we'll have this pull down of the arms either behind the head or in front. So whatever feels right. You can also alternate front and back. I'm purposefully not counting the repetitions. I'm just showing the movement, and you can decide how long you would like to do this. Holding at the top, pulling down, holding at the bottom, coming back up, taking a side bend, back up through center, and then to the opposite side, back up, and then slowly lower. From here, we'll release the band for the upper body. Take a moment to circle out through the wrists, perhaps shaking out one whole arm, making some circles, small circles, large circles. You can even draw a figure 8. Taking it to the other side where we circle and shake. Small circles into larger circles, and perhaps drawing in these figure 8s, just to break up the movement. From here, we'll come forward back onto hands and knees. I have an extra padding on my mat. I have 2 mats under here. So if you feel that you need more support underneath the knees, a folded towel or a blanket is so helpful. I'm just circling around with some hip circles, coming back in that hands and knees table pose. And when we're adding into low body movement, we'll start with flexing and extending. So let's begin here. I like my blocks underneath my hands, that grip support, shifting the weight into the right side and drawing left knee in and then extending left leg long. So however it feels right, you can point through the toes, you can point through the heel on that full body extension. We're opening up through the left side here and maybe even drawing in some circles in the hips with the knee bent. One direction and then the other. And then finding that full extension of the left leg to the side. Bending into the left knee, coming into a side lunge. We'll use these points as transition points. And sometimes the working with the props can be a little tedious for setup. So we'll just use those as mindful transition points. So the next time we're in a bent position, we'll extend that left leg and then walk the hands back, sit back onto the right leg, and we'll find the band. And we're tying the band around the left foot. So I think a double knot, for me, I'm using a medium weight band. Double knot is key. You want to make sure these don't release in your movements. So take a moment. So double knot, a little extra care, and then pull to check. Lie the other side of the band down on your mat and secure it with your right knee. So I've got my blocks, my setup, and then I'm extending the left leg. So now I have resistance on the left leg. And I can work with a lot of options here. So I can just lift and lower my left leg. I like the mixing up of movements that mimic the face of a clock. So you can take the left toes and point as if you were pointing to the face of a clock. So this would be around 10 or 11 o'clock, and then you'd extend the left great toe, tapping down on the 9 o'clock position, and then shifting back into like 6 or 7. So you can work with that rotation, just tapping the toe. You can come back to the 9 o'clock position and lift and lower again. You can come back to the 10 or 11 o'clock position and then move right to that 7 or 6 o'clock position. So it's a larger movement. And come back to that 9 o'clock position and lift and lower. When the movement feels complete, we'll take a moment to bend into the left knee. Slide the left foot back to meet the right. Sit back on the right heel. And we'll take that whole movement to the opposite side. Taking that extra care. With double knotting takes time. So from here, I'm just going to switch myself around. Back to supported table pose, rock backs with my blocks. This time I'm working in with the right leg. So shifting the weight into the left and then drawing this right knee in and then extending the right leg long. So again, you can point the right toes or lead with that right heel. Perhaps even from that flexed position with the right knee, we can open up into some circles with the hips. Take a moment to extend that right leg fully out to the side, planting the right foot down and then finding a bend in the right knee. So working through the hip, just seeing how things feel on this side before we add in the band at all. And then taking that extra time to sit back now on the left heel and tie the band around the right foot. Making sure that first knot is tight and then adding in a second one. Laying the opposite end of the band down flat so the left knee can now secure it, and then just check your resistance with the extension of your right leg. Just see how that feels. That can be enough, just finding the extension and then working through this lifting and lowering of the right leg. If we're imagining that clock face, we're now on the afternoon side, so we would be at 3 o'clock, lifting and lowering. Maybe we want to add in the options of moving forward to the 1 or 2 o'clock position and then sliding back to the 5 or 6 o'clock position. So that shifting of the leg forward and then back. The upper body supporting you. Find the props helpful to keep engaged with the muscles of the upper body. But please do what feels right for you. Perhaps even coming back into that 3 o'clock position, lifting and lowering. Heading forward, back. Taking this movement to a place of completion. Bending into the right knee. Sliding that right foot back to meet the left, sitting back and untying the band. I don't really mind these tedious transition points. I find them to be mindful, just bringing in this moment-to-moment awareness of a practice that is meant to be intentional and focused. From here, we'll take the band and just lay it down towards the front, wherever you consider the front of your mat to be. Just some small adjustments in my space. And then from here, the wrists may need some care, tented fingers, planting down the palms, and perhaps even lifting the palms up, pressing the fingers into the mat. Taking a moment to extend the fingers out to the side, perhaps even one hand rotate so the fingers are pointing towards the knees. And then changing that direction with the other side. You can certainly take a moment with both hands out to the side, and both fingers pointing towards the knees. Taking a wider knee position, the hips can drop down. I prefer just small moments of rest and pauses in the practice. So bringing the fingers in towards the center line of the palm. There's this curling action, this opposite movement of what we've been doing while holding ourselves up in hands and knees pose. And then taking a moment to bend at the elbows and just allowing the hands to hold the head. So supporting the head with the hands, reconnecting with the breath, remembering this three-dimensional quality to the breath where we can access into the sides of the body and the back of the body as well. And then when that pause feels complete, we'll shift back, bringing the knees in line with the hips, perhaps reconnecting with the blocks as we did earlier. If spinal extension is calling with Cobra, push the hands into the blocks into the mat, hinge it back. Feel free to take some hip circles. We're moving ourselves back into downward facing dog from table position. So setting your knees back up, curling your toes under, perhaps even taking a moment to hover the knees. And then hinging those hips up, walking gently in place. In a very similar way, we started the practice with a gentle warm-up of lunges and high plank. You can do the same. So from downward dog, you can shift into a high plank position, hinge it back. And then work it out with the feet. So perhaps the left foot comes forward and you ease into this lunge by straightening the leg and then flexing. Stepping back into your high plank. The right leg comes forward this time where you have this movement and mobility within the knee and the ankle. Even the opposite heel sort of lifts. High plank position. This time we'll bring the left foot forward and allowing the left foot to rest on the center of the band, and we can lower the right knee down. So I'm setting my blocks aside, coming into a low lunge. I'm allowing my right foot to rest, so the top of my right foot to rest rather than curling the toes under, but 2 options are available. And then once I feel steady, I can stack my hands up on the thighs, perhaps even on the hips, and just come into an extension of the spine. So my gaze is to the wall or where the wall meets the ceiling. You can even lift the gaze up a little higher. Let's do some sweeping of the arms forward, making some connection with the thigh and the torso. Just a few rounds here, and then we'll take the band into some pulling movements. The next time the arms are lowered, we'll find the hands to the band. Take a feel onto the band and pull. So I'm just pulling on both sides using my left foot to keep the band in place. And again, I'm not really counting my repetitions, but I'm going to guess that I'll be doing about 8 to 10. And I can hold at the top for a round of breath. I can take a rest at the bottom for a round of breath. I can add in some more pulling motion. The band and support of my foot. I'm going to lay the band back out, find my blocks, curl my right toes under, lift up that back right knee, and then step back into that high plank position. And then find the weight shift to the left, step forward with the right foot this time. Slowly lowering the left knee, taking a moment, just setting the blocks aside, make adjustments with that back left foot. So your second pulling set will be on the right side. So find your band, pulling your band away from the right foot, bending into the elbows. And there's this lifting and lowering action. So we're working into the strength side on this right leg, both arms. And we'll finish with that sweeping motion again in the upper part of the body. So remembering you can hold at the top, you can take a rest at the bottom. Couple more rounds of pulling. And then laying the band flat. Just taking a moment to steady myself. Hands can stack on the top of the right thigh or even be on the hips. My gaze is to the wall or where the wall meets the ceiling. And then I feel steady enough to raise my arms up any amount and then sweep my torso forward and my arms back. So I'm using this sweeping motion to wrap up this right side. The next time the hands reach down, take a moment to find the blocks again. Curling the left toes under to lift the back left knee, finding that engaged quality and lifting up that right foot and allowing it to meet the left. Downward dog is an option here. Perhaps shaking the head side to side, up and down. Reconnecting to your breath. Walking the feet a little wider than the hips, bending into one knee and then the other. Releasing the hands from the blocks, coming into tented fingers. And again, my feet are still wide. My left hand will be just underneath my gaze, and I'm going to bend into the left knee and reach my right arm out to the side. So this is one option, and the gaze can follow. You can also bring the right hand to the right hip, or you can extend this whole right arm up, and we're just going to switch it out from side to side. So now the right hand will come underneath the gaze, we'll bend fully into the right knee, extend the left arm out to the side. Option 1, allow the gaze to follow. Option 2, you can bring the left hand to the hip. And option 3, you can raise the left arm up and adjust the head and neck for comfort. Releasing in the middle, hanging the head heavy, interlacing the hands, and just allowing the center of the palms and the interlaced hands to be a rest for the back of the head. And come up halfway. The weight of the hands pressing on the back of the head, extending the elbows out to the side, and then releasing into that fold again. You can soften the elbows. Take that up halfway. Soften, release the elbows. And one more time, just finding that extension through the crown of the head and that pressing of the head into the hands into the head. And then releasing. Toe healing the feet a little closer together. Enjoying that walk around with the hands like we did in the very beginning. Moving from side to side. And then from here, I'm walking my hands forward back to the blocks, taking a moment if high plank is calling again, or perhaps shifting into downward dog. Or from high plank and downward dog, can shift right into hands and knees pose. And we're transitioning onto our backs. We'll set the blocks aside. Find the band. We'll be using that one more time. I'm going to just set up my space. So again, we have room to expand outward in all directions. I'm going to sit down, take a moment to extend the legs and give them a shake. I've been enjoying a little bit of tapping with loose fists. Outsides of the thighs, insides of the thighs. So I'm tapping and shaking at the same time. Perhaps even getting into the hips, the low belly, if that feels right. And then using a little bit of sweeping motion with the hands along the legs and upward and downward strokes. Low back, you can even get into the arms. I've been enjoying this as a cool down process, but in Reiki we call this kenyoku or dry brushing. I find it's really nice for the mechanoreceptors of the body, our touch sensors. Crown of the head, down the back of the neck, even just along the torso, the belly. Using the hands just underneath the knees, coming into that flexed position. And a few rounds of cat and cow here, seated, with that long extension of the arms and the tucking of the pelvis and chin. I always like to give this opportunity for spinal rocking. So just ensuring that there are no obstructions behind you and allowing the spine to fall back and the feet to extend up. So the momentum of this movement just propels you back and forth. Feel nice on the spine. For a massage, it also gives an opportunity for transition to release the legs, release the arms, just giving a full body stretch. And as you lower the arms alongside the body, perhaps you find your band. We'll just lay it over the low belly just to start. Move into the hip flexors. So keeping that left leg long, we'll find a bend in the right knee. Make any adjustments in your seat. I'm always moving around, so I encourage others to do so as well. And then we'll lift up that right foot and just pull that right knee or right thigh into the side body. So you can always interlace your hands and hold the front or underneath of the knee. You have your band here. If it feels easier and more supportive to use that, that's another option. We'll take a round of 3 breaths with this knee to chest position, and feel free to allow that right hip to open to the side. Just see where it wants to go and check in with how you're feeling. And circle out through the ankle, point and flex the toe. Release the hands or the band, and then bring that right leg alongside the left. Take a pause. Noticing right side to left side. Keeping right leg long, left knee will now bend in. We're popping up that left foot and then choosing how we want to hold the knee, either with the band or with interlaced fingers. And taking a round of 3 breaths and allowing each exhale to soften a bit more into the hip. Feel free to point and flex the toes on the left side, maybe circle out through the ankle. Releasing that left leg alongside the right. Take one pause with the hands and the legs and the feet, just soft and relaxed. And then we'll find a bend in both knees. Walking the feet in, pressing down through the feet. We'll take a moment to allow the arms to be alongside the body. One of the things that I like to do in these bridge presses is to hold on to the edge of my yoga mat, and I'm pressing into my feet and then working through just a few rounds of pelvic tilting. So again, that flexion and extension of the spine. When we come down, tucking that pelvis, the natural lumbar curve is pressing into the mat. And it's from that position that we can press into the feet and lift the pelvis up. So I'm holding on to the edges of my mat and I'm just lifting the pelvis up any amount and then lowering again. So I'm lifting and lowering for a few rounds. Lingering on the lift, perhaps even lingering on the lowering, and then lifting up one heel and then the other. So alternating heel lifts, allowing that momentum to bring one foot up and then the other. So we have fully bent hips and knees. Feel free to rock from side to side. Finding the band that should be laying over your belly, and place the band on the soles of the feet. So you may have to lift your head and neck away from the floor. Find the center of your band and hold onto the band on either side with your hands and allow the legs to extend up. So the soles of the feet are parallel to the ceiling, and we have this opportunity for some pull downs. So just pulling the band and the hands away from the feet. Can feel like a nice net of support for the feet, this band. Holding on the lowering, releasing the resistance on the band and allowing the arms to come up. I'm just going to gently take my left leg out and keep my right foot in the band. Take a moment here to point and flex the toes. Find the band with the right hand. Place gently my left hand on the front of my left hip and then bend my right knee so I can find an opening here on the right side. So adjusting the tension on the band with the distance between your hand and your foot. A few rounds of breath. Feel free to move around in your space. As you bend into the right knee and draw that right leg back up through center, you'll switch hands on the band to make adjustments in your pelvis and then allow the right leg to cross over the left side of the body. The right arm can open. You can take your gaze towards the right shoulder and enjoy a few rounds of breath here. Bending into the right knee. The right leg will extend back up, taking the band with both sides, bending into the left knee this time, and then finding a moment with both feet inside the band. You can rock a little bit from side to side. Rock forward and back. And then the right leg will be removed. Extend that long. Take a moment here. The left leg lifted. See how that feels. And then find the band with the left hand. Bending the left knee. Right hand can come to the front of the right hip. And we open up this left leg to the side. So make any adjustments you need to in your space. My wall's in the way. Opening up that left leg. Adjusting the tension on the band, the distance between the hand and the foot. A few rounds of breath. Micro bend the knee. Left leg will come back up through center, switch hands with the band. And then left leg will cross over the right side of the body. The left arm will open, your gaze can follow. Left arm towards left shoulder. Each side feels different. Allow the breath to carry you in your practice. Bending of the left knee, pressing into the outside of that right foot, drawing the left leg back through center, taking a moment with both hands finding the band, maybe pulling that right leg up to meet the left, taking a moment with Lowering the legs and lifting the legs. Enjoying the tension on the band. Bending through both knees, setting the band aside, circling out through the ankles, pointing and flexing the toes. And really at this point, finding any stretch that would feel complete in your practice. And choosing a position of rest to seal in your practice. If you have longer than a few minutes, enjoying some extra props with bolsters or blankets underneath the knees or the thighs, turning yourself around if you can extend your legs up a wall or on a chair or on a couch, rotating so you're on one side of the body, right or left, curling yourself up into a little ball, taking a position like this where your hands are cradling the back of your head and your knees have come together and your feet are a bit wider than your hips. Any position that you choose, take a few moments of rest, seal in your practice, reconnect to your breath. And feel into the connections that are all around you, whether it be just the weight of your body sinking into the mat and the floor, the space that you're in, tuning into your senses, enjoying the air as you feel it on your skin, perhaps the scent of the air if you have windows open. Just noticing any sounds that are inside your space, perhaps even just the sound of your breath. If your eyes are closed, there's still that sense of the natural light coming in, or any light in your space. Just hovering between that interior landscape and exterior landscape. Noticing the sounds in your space and the sounds outside your space. Feel free to linger here as long as you like.